Hey everybody, before we get started, I just want to remind you this episode is brought to you by our patrons, like Ahanga Comics, Qua, and Nestor Flores. If you like what we do and want to see us do more, consider supporting us on Patreon. You can get access to episodes early and lots of other goodies, and it will really help us out. Thanks for your support, everyone. Tiger, tiger, burning bright, in the forests of the night, what immortal hand or eye could frame thy fearful symmetry? In what distant deeps or skies burnt the fire of thine eyes? On what wings dare he aspire? What the hand dare seize the fire? And what shoulder, at what art, could twist the sinews of thy heart? And when thy heart began to beat, what dread hand and what dread feet? What the hammer, what the chain? In what furnace was thy brain? What the anvil, what dread grasp, its deadly terrors clasp? When the stars threw down their spears, and the heavens with their tears, did he smile his work to see? Did he who made the lamb make thee? Tiger, tiger, burning bright, in the forests of the night, what immortal hand or eye dare frame thy fearful symmetry? Hello everyone, welcome back to Let's Talk FGO Wanted. Yes, when we talk about Avengers, I guess I just read poetry. It's a living. Anyway, hey, hi, we're here. We're going to talk about Wanted. So Wanted is the show we do where we talk about if you want to roll 5 stars. Usually of the limited variety, but sometimes of the story-locked variety, and even sometimes of the permanent variety, if I care enough. But not enough for Orion. I'm sorry. It was a busy week, and they needed to turn around. Anyway, we're going to talk about Edmond Dantes today. I'm going to spoil it. We're going to talk about the 5-star Avenger, Edmond Dantes, the King in the Cavern, the Count of Monte Cristo, lots of other fun names, Chuckles McEdgelord, whatever you want to call him. So, for those of you not familiar with the Wanted setup, or in case you just need a refresher because you haven't watched one of these in a while, basically with Wanted, the way we do it, we break it into 4 segments. We talk about the characters' real-life history or mythology or folklore. Then we talk about their fate lore with a capital L. Then we talk about their mechanics. Then we talk about their rarity, as in their actual, how frequent are the rate-ups, not necessarily their star rarity, because all of these have the same star rarity, 5. So we'll burst on through those segments and let you know if you want to roll this guy who yells and laughs, and is really tryhard. And honestly, let's just get into it. So, this is one of those cases where, once again, this is a famous, well-known story, a literary classic, one of Alexander Dumas's most popular works, The Count of Monte Cristo. The title of the novel is the actual title of the novel. So, yeah, there's so much we could go here, and I could run through the whole, Cliff's Notes, but let's not. The basic outline is this. This is a historical novel set in a period in France during the Bourbon Restoration. Napoleon is in exile, and basically it's about Edmond Dantes, a young merchant sailor, who's, he's gonna be rich, he's gonna marry his sweetheart, all that stuff, and then he is betrayed by men, through circumstance. They betray him and falsely accuse him, and send him to Chateau d'If, a horrible place, prison, but he meets a man named Abbe Faria who, counsels him, tells him some secret stuff, and he escapes and finds a vast treasure of quote-unquote Monte Cristo. And then he becomes basically a new person. He revolutionizes himself, he adopts a new identity. He has a lot of, a lot of wealth and a lot of drive. Drive is one of the central focuses of the story, along with kind of like hope and revenge. And he exacts his terrible vengeance, hence Avenger. He's probably one of the most popular characters of a revenge story out there. I thought about quoting Kill Bill, but I decided Tiger, Tiger, Burning Bright would make more sense, because that's referenced in one of his noble phantasms. And is also very much on point. There's not really a lot else to talk about with the novel. It's immensely popular, first published in 1844. It is popular in Japan for some reason, and I don't know why. There were a lot of adaptations and stuff to it. There have been lots of adaptations all over the world throughout history because it's super popular, because people love a good revenge story. Anyway, after that, like I said, there's not really much else to talk about the character of Dantes in this setting, though it is funny to note that he is also a servant who may or may not exist because there's a drama CD about him, but also Alexander Dumas is a heroic spirit who can be summoned. Wrap your head around that one. So, in Fate, his mythology is much the same, all that other stuff. The important point, though, is that he has some weird magical abilities, the Monte Cristo mythology, which was actually a thing he had in life. He possessed a part of the treasure. He found a weird magecraft thing that gave him super sweet magical powers to shoot black flames at stuff, and he fought vampires with them. I am not kidding. That is the actual subject of the Edmond Dantes drama CD, which is a thing that exists in Japanese. But yeah, so he was super cool in life and got to do super cool black flame stuff even when he was alive in Fate. Dantes is one of the key stars of the upcoming Prison Tower event rerun and was in the original case of it. He also appears kind of framed in shadow in the Kara no Kyokai collab event, which happened already, and will have a rerun about a year from now, I think. A little more than a year. He also returns to show up as kind of one of the key representatives for all the event servants in the Solomon final chapter, where the half AP will currently lead you up to. And there'll be a few more touches with him later, which we won't really spoil. We won't ruin anything, but you'll see him again in new content this year, so keep an eyeball out. Other than that, like I said, I mean, just if you want to be more familiar with him, just go ahead and read The Count of Monte Cristo if you haven't already. It's a classic. So, I guess then let's go ahead and ditch all that after about 5 minutes and talk about mechanics. Because like I said, I can't possibly do justice to the actual novel in a summary. You should read it for yourself. Just realize that he's all about revenge and stuff. So, Dantes is an interesting unit. He unfortunately smacks a little bit of early game design. You can tell that he's the first of his type of unit, a lot based on his design and the fact where later Avengers are not similar to him. Where they are similar to him also, though, you can kind of see the back and forth there. So, what you want to be thinking about is, look at those stat lines here. Avengers don't have great star gen, and don't have great star absorption. And unfortunately, unlike Jolter, who you're going to see Dantes compared a lot to due to their relative closeness in release and being the first two Avengers, like, Jolter has a way to fix that. Lots of other Avengers have a way to kind of coordinate it. Some don't, and they share Dantes' problems in that regard. But he's got, a quick Noble Phantasm and a couple quick cards in his deck. So, hey, isn't that cool? And we'll kind of talk about that later when we get into passives. But at the time, he was pretty impressive. His attack was second highest in the game, behind Kintoki. But then, very shortly after, they released Ku Alter and Jolter, who both have higher stats. So he's not quite that level of attack. He's a little bit lower. Though to compensate, he has slightly more HP than them. Not necessarily enough to maybe matter, but he does have the highest HP out of all Avengers, for instance. You'll notice, though, he does seem to have a little bit of a low NP charge for only having one arts card with 2 hits. I think they expected his quick deck to kind of compensate a little bit more, but in practicality, you really want his second skill to get that NP gain up there. But with that, he can strike very well. It's not terrible, it's just kind of unsatisfactory, It's not as fast as you'd like, but you can go around that. So let's look at his deck, right? 2 quick cards, 1 arts card, 2 buster cards. Fairly decent hit counts, got a couple hits on the buster so that they can kind of slide in there. The core star generation's not great, but he's got a decent enough hit count, so you could probably make something work, right? But you'll notice, if you look at other Avengers, that they don't have this particular combo of deck NP setup again, right? So you can, like I said, kind of see the early game unit design here with those guys. And I think, yeah, so, actually, no, nobody has Dantes double quick, double buster deck. Anybody who has 2 busters instead has 2 arts cards. So, yeah, that's very interesting to see that. So nobody has his exact deck combo. Maybe there was something that was a bit flawed about that. His Noble Phantasm, well, okay, before I talk about his Noble Phantasm, we should say, when we talk about Dantes, we have to remind you that if you roll Dantes now, you're technically making an investment because, as I said, he smacks a lot of early unit design. His passives aren't quite as good as some later versions. His deck combo's not optimal. His skills are pretty good, but they're kind of weighed down by compensating for some of his other issues, and they don't necessarily touch all the things you want to do with Dantes. You're looking at broad quick base support in about a year and a half when Skadi is released. And also then in that following summer event, Dantes is going to get an NP buff, which ups his NP damage, and also causes him to inflict a debuff that increases the amount of curse damage enemy takes. So it will roughly double the amount of curse damage she deals to them, and if you have any other curse damage going in there. And Skadi helps compensate a lot of issues that he has, So they complement each other very well. But like I said, that's a year and a half in the future, and that's a limited 5-star unit. You're going to roll to make another limited 5-star unit better. But his Noble Phantasm at stand now deals damage to all enemies with a pretty decent multiplier for being quick. Reduces their defense for 3 turns. This is overcharge based, and it starts at 20%, so that's decent. Could be better, but decent. And then inflicts curse for 5 turns, which is also overcharged based and starts at 500. This is pretty soft. I can see why they decided to buff to double that damage with a separate effect, because that amount of damage over time is very soft and not going to do a lot of work. So mostly you're going to use this for the fact that it's a quick with 8 hits. He's got 2 other quick cards. Conceivably, you can do an NP quick turn and then turn that around into like arts or buster crits, or even, you know, quick crits if that's your deck comes up, and turn that around by generating a lot of stars. But Dante's inherent star weight's not super great, and he doesn't necessarily fix that, so it's a whole thing. Let's talk about his active skills, because honestly, his skills are pretty good. Even if you can kind of see from his like deck design and his NP that he's not striking on the same level as some other units. His skills are pretty good, though. Iron Determination EX for 1 turn gives you up to 50% attack up, which is a great buff. Kentucky has a similar ability with Monster Strength. It increases your debuff resist for 3 turns by a decent, a little over 30%, and then applies Ignored Invincible for 1 turn. So this is your big damage steroid. I do think, because it's only 1 turn, there's a little bit of conflict. Do you want to use this on an NP turn where you're trying to like bum in and generate stars, or do you save it for a turn where maybe you got more buster cards and you got lots of stars so that you can crit? So it could be better with different duration, but as just a damage steroid skill, it's great. You get to ignore Invincible, so you don't got to worry about any pesky evades or Invincibles, and your attack goes up significantly, considering that he is still number 4 attack stat in the game. That 50% buff is crazy. Second skill is Golden Rule A, which increases your NP gain for 3 turns. Starts at 20% and goes up to 50%. Now, it's got a 6-turn cooldown, so kind of like 3 turns on, 3 turns off is a little annoying. He's still only got 1 arts card, but that's a 50% buff. I haven't really used a Dantes with this maxed out myself, so I don't know how it like feels on in actual gameplay, but on paper, that's a pretty decent buff. His NP charge per attack isn't terrible. You know, it's just, like I said, it's kind of middling. It's not awful, but it's not great either. So that can definitely compensate. I'm just kind of personally concerned about the duration and cooldown, but still, a very good example of Golden Rule. And then his third skill, Wisdom of Crisis A, which is self and 1 enemy. You gain up to 20 critical stars, you reduce 1 enemy's NP gauge by 1, and you remove debuffs from self. So, for a damage dealer, removing debuffs from yourself is great. For a crit-focused servant, generating critical stars is great. The only problem is, as observed, Dantes' own inherent star weight is very low. He is not likely, with only 20 stars, to see them himself, but if you generate a lot of critical stars, you can definitely get it started. And if you have some way to manipulate stars, either through like a skill effect that increases star absorption, later command codes will increase star absorption on specific cards, stuff like that. CEs will do that, obviously. That also pairs pretty well. So it's a pretty good kit. It's just, like I said, Dantes is... Oh, it almost seems like Dantes is designed to be like, let's not make him too good. You need a little bit of support, as opposed to Jean Alter, who has her crit bonus is also her star absorb bonus, and then she's got like a team damage steroid and her personal damage steroid, which also acts as a emergency button with an invincible, which Dantes also doesn't have. He doesn't have a lot of defensive abilities other than the ability to stall out enemy's charge. His passive skills, Avenger A, pretty good, increases your NP gauge gained when hit by 20%. He already has a astonishing 6% NP charge on defense, so your primary way of charging NP maybe we get hit, which you're not going to like. It also does decrease your allies' debuff resist a little bit. You've got Oblivion Correction B for a decent critical passive, and then you've got Self-Restoration Magical Energy D for 3% NP gauge per turn. That is better than, or rather, that is worse than most other Avengers, so I think that's something that they very critically noticed was not helping. Jolter, I believe, goes up to 4%. Lots of others are like 3.5 or 3.8. So that's a little lacking. He's a little bit of a slow starter, but with those damage buffs, very good hit counts on his quick cards and his quick NP, he can generate plenty of stars to use and hit pretty hard critting. The primary problem, like I said, with Dantes is he's not self-sufficient in a lot of ways. Like, arguably, even now, he's not self-sufficient. It's just that because quick support in terms of Scotty was designed, he has the perfect complement because she does defensive stuff, she enhances his quick, she enhances his NP gain and stuff like that. So they pair together really well. It's a bit like pairing with Lancelot in that regard. So you really need to run him with support to get the most out of him. I'd recommend one of the CEs that increases your inherent star weight, like Seal Designator or Sealing Designation Enforcer, rather. You probably want to pair him with defensive servants. Good thing Waver is generic support because he's just damage up, and he's got a critical up on one of his, his targeted NP gains. So they'd pair together pretty well. Give him some defensive options, give him some NP charge, give him more offense. That's basically what you want. Is you will want a way to make Dantes a little more survivable because he doesn't have a lot of that on his own, and you'll want to find a way to massage his star weight and his NP gain so he actually gets trucking. Because like I said, his offense is really good, so he will do pretty good damage, especially when he crits. But you're going to want those crits because otherwise you're only doing neutral damage. Everybody got that? And like I said, remember, even if you're like, oh, he sounds a little disappointing now when you phrase it like that, Omega, like I said, he's going to get an NP buff that's going to increase his base damage and increase that curse damage. And quick support is totally coming. Not quite as revolutionary as, like, Merlin is, I think, but still very much giving quick what it needs to survive. So, let's go ahead and talk about rarity. How rare is Dantes? Pretty rare. Gonna be real with you. At this moment, you've already missed the first challenge event, the, Vengeful Demon's Wail at Prison Tower. That already happened a year ago-ish. And now the rerun is coming up. It's not officially announced yet, but based on timelines, we know it's coming because they did the challenge event incoming event. So you know it's coming up. And after that, you're going to have to wait until the aforementioned Servant Summer Festival, the third summer event where he is on a males banner, which has also, let's see. Yeah, it's also Robin Hood and Gilgamesh Caster on there. Because his costume is introduced, and yes, he does have a summer costume. Not a full-blown summer variant, but a costume that's pretty cool. And after that, as of yet, there are no new raid-ups for 2 years. So, if you really like Dantes, which I wouldn't blame you if you do, and you don't have him yet, other than a couple of those GSSR pulls, here's a really good time to try and roll for him, because he's on solo raid-up, and he's not directly competing with banners for new servants that are also going to be super popular. Here's a really good time to roll if you want to. Because he is pretty rare, which is a shame. Because he's pretty cool. I wouldn't mind him. I just, like I said, I don't have the necessary need for all the spread that he does. Because I have a Gorgon and Jolter, personally. All right, I think that about wraps up everything. By the way, sorry if I've been a little quiet in the episode. I've mentioned this before. I'm trying a slightly different mic setup with actually using my pop filter in front of my microphone. It just means I have to step back a little bit. But we'll wrap up here. Stay tuned for the regular Let's Talk FGO, where we will talk about the Prison Tower when it comes out, and all that stuff. Probably talk about the new challenge quest that's coming at the end, how we're doing, how good it is to see old Cavern King again, stuff like that. And also tune into the episode we already just had, that's already out, that's cool. And yeah, so if you like this video, go ahead and give it a like. If you have any comments, leave them in the comment section down below, or check into our Discord, that link is in the description. If you are new here and have not already, please subscribe so you can always get our latest videos. And even if you already subscribed, don't forget that bell for notifications so you always know when we post a new video, because sometimes our posting schedule is erratic. And also, it's just really handy to know when we post a video, especially considering YouTube's going to take away automatic social media postings, which means I got to do it manually, which means at least one out of every 10 times I'm going to forget. Also, like it says at the front of the show, consider supporting us on Patreon. You can get access to this episode a whole day earlier if you support at the right level. You can get access to our shows in audio format downloadable, access to polls, lots of other good stuff, and it really helps us out. We're trying to make some goals for the year to get some stuff done that'll really help the channel, like bartending with Lucky, if that doesn't appeal to you. Anyway, I will see you guys in the next video, whatever form that takes, and be sure to tune in, like I said, to the new Let's Talk FGO coming this week, and, have some fun with revenge. Because when fortune smiles on something as violent and ugly as revenge, it seems proof like no other that not only does God exist, you're doing his will.